The most feared fighter jet in history just got an upgrade. A jet that can already outrun bullets.
Is now getting eyes that can see through the dark. A plane so stealthy, radar cannot find it, is now being made even harder to detect.
The U.S. Air Force is spending $9 billion on a jet most people thought was already perfect. Why?
Because the threat has changed, and America is not taking any chances. What you are about to hear will make you proud to be an American. Here is the question nobody is asking out loud. If the F-22 Raptor greatest,
why is the U.S. Air Force spending billions to change it? The answer tells you everything about the state of the world right now. And it tells you everything about how seriously the U.S. military takes the job of keeping Americans safe. Stay with us, because by the end of this video, you will see this legendary jet in a completely new light.
Welcome to Jet and Seal with Jet Insight.
this channel was built for people who understand that American air power is not just a military asset. It is a shield. It is a promise. It is the reason the world still has order. And today, we are talking about a jet.
But this is not the same story you have heard before. This is the story of what happened when a legend refuses to stand still.
When the greatest fighter in the sky decides it still has more to give, the U.S. Air Force is transforming the F-22 into what many are now calling the Super Raptor. And the upgrades being rolled out by 2026 are not small tweaks. They are fundamental changes
that will make this jet more dangerous, more capable, and more dominant than it has ever been.
If you agree that American air power should always stay one step ahead, type PROUD in the comments below.
Before we dive deeper, please take a second to...
The jet that started it all. To understand why this upgrade matters so much, you first need to understand what made the F-22 special in the first place. Back in the early 2000s, when the Raptor first took to the skies, it was like nothing the world had ever seen. Most fighters...
The F-22 was all three at the same time. It could cruise at supersonic speed without even using its afterburner. That is called supercruise.
Most jets burn massive amounts of fuel just to break the sound barrier. The Raptor does it while barely breaking a sweat.
Its stealth was in a class of its own. Radar cross-section is the term experts use to describe
how visible a jet is to enemy radar. Most fighters look like a large bird on radar. The F-22 looks like a marble, essentially invisible.
And its maneuverability? There is a famous story from a training exercise in Alaska, back in 2006.
where a single F-22 simulated taking down over 100 opposing aircraft without taking a scratch. 100.
But the Cold War ended. Budgets were cut. Only 187 were ever made.
That decision would come back to haunt planners years later. Because the world did not stay quiet.
China started building its own stealth fighter. Russia doubled down on advanced air defenses. The threat environment changed completely.
And the Raptor, as incredible as it was, needed to change with it.
Here is where the story gets interesting. For years, there was a quiet concern inside the U.S. Air Force.
The F-22 was unmatched in speed, stealth, and combat agility. But it had one weakness that nobody liked to talk about.
The F-22's combat radius was roughly 530 nautical miles.
For operations in Europe or the Middle East, that was usually enough. But the world's next major flashpoint is not Europe. It is the Pacific Ocean. The distances involved in a potential conflict near Taiwan or the South China Sea are enormous.
Islands are spread across thousands of miles of open water. Bases are far apart. Every mile matters. And here is the painful truth.
The F-22, with its original fuel capacity, could not comfortably reach many of the critical areas where it might be needed most.
The older external fuel tanks that Raptors sometimes carried were not stealthy. The moment you hung a big, blocky fuel tank
under the wing of a stealth fighter, you essentially gave away your position to enemy radar. It defeated the entire purpose.
So the Air Force faced a real dilemma.
a powerful but range-limited fighter, an increasingly dangerous Pacific theater.
Is exactly what the Raptor 2.0 upgrade program is designed to fix. Just wait until you hear what they came up with.
Because the solution is genuinely brilliant. Lockheed Martin engineers went back to the drawing board.
What they produced is a masterpiece of aerospace design. The new external fuel tanks for the F-22 are not...
They are low drag, faceted, sleek, shaped with the same kind of careful geometry that makes the Raptor stealthy in the first place.
These tanks are designed to carry fuel without creating a giant radar signature. In fact, engineers worked on them so carefully
that the F-22 can actually fly into combat with these tanks still attached. Think about that for a moment. Previous tanks had to be dropped
before entering a combat zone. That meant pilots had to choose between range and survivability.
Both the old and new tanks extend the F-22's range by around 850 nautical miles.
That transforms the Raptor's ability to operate deep in the Pacific's theater. Deliveries of these tanks to F-22 squadrons were targeted to begin by early 2026, following the completion of all developmental and operational testing.
For the veterans watching this, think of it in this way. It is like giving your best soldier a longer pair of legs.
Everything they were already good at, they can now do farther from home. But the fuel tanks are just one piece of the puzzle.
Because what good is range if your enemy can still see you coming?
China and Russia have both invested heavily in electronic warfare systems designed to detect radar emissions.
In other words, the moment a jet turns on its radar, an enemy system can potentially detect that signal and know the jet is there.
Stealth is about hiding, but if your own radar gives you away, stealth becomes less useful. IRST solves that problem in a remarkable way.
Instead of sending out a radar signal, it listens. It detects the heat signatures of enemy aircraft.
Engine heat. Friction heat from the airframe moving through the air. It is entirely passive.
Silent, invisible, no signal goes out, nothing comes back that the enemy can detect. The F-22 simply watches and waits.
Like a hunter in complete darkness, the pods being integrated under the wings of the upgraded Raptor are specifically designed to track stealth targets.
Because here is the thing. China's J-20 stealth fighter is stealthy to radar, but it still produces heat.
And the new IRST system on the F-22 can find that heat. The Air Force completed flight test demonstrations of this system in 2024.
But there is still more. Because the Super Raptor upgrade goes even deeper than sensors and range.
The U.S. Air Force calls the full upgrade program the Viability Package. And the name says it all.
This is about making sure the F-22 stays viable,
stays relevant,
stays deadly.
The fiscal year 2026 budget request allocated over $90 million specifically for this package.
Yes. And when you read what is included, it becomes clear that this is a comprehensive overhaul. First, there is the infrared defensive system.
This is different from the search and track pods. The IRDS is embedded directly into the airframe.
It gives the pilot a full picture of any incoming missile threat from any direction at any time.
For older Caucasian female veterans who flew in an era when a missile warning meant chaos in the cockpit, This system is extraordinary.
It sees the threat before the threat gets close, and it can help automate countermeasure responses.
Then there are upgrades to the synthetic aperture radar. This gives the F-22 the ability to map terrain
and identify targets on the ground with far greater precision than before. The Raptor started its life as a pure air-to-air fighter.
These upgrades continue to make it useful in a wider range of missions. The package also includes improvements to the pilot vehicle interface.
That is the cockpit itself. The displays, the controls, the way information is presented to the pilot. Modern threats come fast. The pilot needs to process information in seconds. The upgraded interface is designed to make that easier.
The F-22's radar-absorbing coating is maintained and improved continuously. But the 2026 package takes this further, with new materials and techniques designed to keep the Raptor ahead of China's improving radar systems. Electronic warfare improvements are also included.
The ability to detect enemy radar waveforms and respond automatically, to jam, deceive, and confuse enemy systems in real time.
And yet, even with all of this, the most forward-thinking part of the upgrade has nothing to do with missiles or sensors. It has to do with the future of warfare itself. The U.S. Air Force has a new vision for how wars in the sky will be fought. It is called Collaborative Combat Aircraft.
And the F-22 is being positioned right at the center of it. The concept is straightforward. A piloted fighter, like the F-22.
Point flies alongside unmanned drones called loyal wingmen. The pilot does not just fly their own jet. They command the drones around them,
directing their sensors, their weapons, and their positions. The fiscal year 2026 budget includes CCA-related modifications to the F-22 to make this possible. One example is the Autonodyne Bashi software, which allows the upgraded Raptor to command drones like the MQ-20 Avenger directly from the cockpit.
Think about what that means in practice. A single F-22 pilot, deep in contested airspace,
can now effectively control a small fleet of unmanned aircraft. Drones can be sent to scout dangerous areas.
Drones can carry additional weapons. Drones can be sacrificed to draw enemy fire while the F-22 remains safe.
The pilot becomes a commander. The jet becomes a headquarters in the sky. For the men and women who have served in leadership roles,
there is something deeply familiar about this concept. You never send one person to do what a team can do better. The upgraded F-22 is becoming that team leader. With 143 combat-coded Raptors in the current fleet, the Air Force is focusing
on these airframes specifically. Every one of them will be able to serve as a nerve center for drone operations.
And speaking of the future, if you are a military veteran or someone passionate about U.S. defense, we would love for you to join our growing community of like-minded patriots. It is a place where stories like this are shared, discussed, and celebrated every single day. No story about the F-22 Super Raptor is complete without talking about what comes next. The Boeing F-47.
The sixth-generation fighter that will eventually replace the Raptor. The F-47 is expected to enter production around 2028.
But production numbers will be low in the early years, and until enough F-47s are available to take over the mission, the F-22 has to hold the line.
That is exactly what this upgrade program is designed to do. The Air Force is not spending $9 billion on the F-22.
Because they have forgotten about the F-47. They are spending it because they need a bridge, a way to keep air superiority locked down,
while the next generation comes online. The F-22's airframe was originally rated for 8,000 flight hours.
With ongoing structural maintenance and the upgrades being made now, that life is expected to be extended to somewhere between 12.
Some estimates suggest the upgraded Raptor could remain in service all the way to 2060.
That is nearly 6 more decades of relevance for a jet that first flew in the early 2000s.
It is a testament to just how well this aircraft was designed. And it is
It is being reborn as something even greater. Longer reach, smarter sensors, invisible to radar and invisible to the enemy's tracking systems.
Commanding drones, carrying new weapons, ready for a new era of warfare.
This is what American military excellence looks like. Not standing still, not settling, always pushing forward.
If this story moved you, do not forget to like this video and subscribe.
And you do not want to miss a single one.